Awesome. All right. Well, welcome to the class today. Today's class is all around Lone Wolf and how you can actually utilize it. This is our Lone Wolf 101 class that we're going to be teaching. Once again, this class will be today. We're also going to be doing the same thing again on this Thursday. And then we're going to be doing it one last time next week on Tuesday, right before that official date happens. So I believe that'll be the 14th is when that'll happen. All right. So 3 more chances to take this live class. All right. Now, this class is meant to be a workshop, so if you are able to follow along with us, please feel free. I would love it if you did. We're going to go through a lot of information today, so let's go ahead and get started on here right away. All right. So the first thing that we really want to do on here today, all right, first thing first is we want to go to our command account and make sure that we have Lone Wolf signed up and accessible. All right. So if you are not on here, you don't have this set up quite yet, no worries. We're going to show you how you can do this today. All right, so we're going to go over to our Lone Wolf account, or sorry, into our command account to set up Lone Wolf on here. So once we go to agent.k2.com, we can click on our name at the top right, and then select settings from the drop-down menu. All right, and the first thing we're going to do today is set up our Lone Wolf account. So if you already have your Lone Wolf account set up, you can go ahead and just relax for a little bit. All right, you'll be good to go on there. All right. Well, let's go ahead and click on our name at the top right and then select settings from the drop-down menu. Here we go. Now, this is where we can see if we have Lone Wolf set up or any other e-transaction platform. So just a reminder, Lone Wolf is going to be the main e-transaction platform that'll be accessible on your command account. All right, so on 7/14, that's when the full official transition is happening on here. You can see that around DocuSign down here. But of course, if your office is still utilizing .loop, if you were paying for .loop, if your board or association gives you .loop, that'll still be accessible as well. It's just DocuSign that'll be transitioning out. Right. Now to set up Lone Wolf, first and foremost, if you have this connected, you are all good to go. So you can just relax for a little bit. Right. But if you do need to get this connected like I need to on here, you can click this connect account blue button on the right-hand side. All right. This is going to let us either connect an account that we already have set up, or it's going to allow us to go in and create an account. So today I'm going to create an account instead so we can see what that's going to look like. Now, since this is going to be linked with the Lone Wolf platform, if you've utilized any Lone Wolf products before, like maybe Cloud CMA, Transaction Desk, you can actually utilize that login and password if you'd prefer, right? So that way you can keep using the same one that you were using before. But if not, we're going to set up a brand new one today on here. All right, so I'm going to click on Connect Account. And once we do that, we should get a pop-up that's going to come up here. Hopefully this will come up all the way on here for me. All right. So once we do that on here, now we can go through and either connect this account on here, so I can sign in with it, or I can click the sign up button. So I'm going to click on the sign up one instead. I'm going to sign up for my new account. This is going to allow me to go in and create that account right away. I think it's under this email. We're going to find out in 1 second. I think it's this one. I just changed this out early. You know what? Before I mess this up, let me double check. All right, but you can put inside your email address that you want to utilize. I'm going to double check before I mess this up even further. Let me just double check which alias email I used on this one. All right, but you can put inside whatever email you want to. And the biggest question that we always get is, does it have to be your k2b.com email? And the answer is no. It does not have to be a k2b.com email. It can literally be any email that you would like to use. I'm glad I double checked on here because that was the wrong one. All right, so I'm going to click on this so we can continue with that right away. And then it's going to ask me for some information on here. All right, so I'm going to put inside my first name. I'm going to put inside my last name. Put inside the country on here, state as well. All right, I've got my time zone. I'm Eastern, so I'm good to go on here, but obviously you can select this and change this out. All right, and then we'll put inside our password as well, too. Now, when you start typing inside the password, it is going to give you the specific items that you need, all right? Requirements, I guess is what I should have said. All right, but I'm going to put this inside on here. And as you can see, it has to be at least 10 characters, right? I would highly suggest shooting for something higher than that, right? But at least 10 characters on here. And then at least 3 of the following: a lowercase letter, an uppercase letter, a number, and then a special character. So it says at least 3 of the following on here, but I'd like to make sure that everything's checked on there. And then no more than 2 identical characters in a row. All right, so that's one of the big things on it. All right. So once you click continue, make sure obviously you remember that password. All right, if you wrote it down, if you want to double check, obviously you can click the eyeball on here to show the password. Keep that safe. But once I click continue on here, don't worry about that one on here, it will say that please enter the verification code that was sent over to the email, and the code will be valid on here for 5 minutes. All right. So I'm now going to look for my email for this to come through, and this is what it's going to look like. So this is where you're going to receive that email that's going to say, welcome to Lone Wolf Technologies. Thank you for signing up. Please verify your account by entering the code below. Now, this code is going to be specific for myself, so make sure that whenever you receive your email, you're using your specific code. If you're trying to use the code that you're seeing on the screen from me, that's not going to work. All right, make sure you're using yours specifically. All right, but once I put that in and click continue, this is going to connect the account. Now, one thing to note on here as well is that whenever you connect this account, in comparison to other platforms like DocuSign or Dotloop, whenever you connect it, you would have the ability to disconnect. When I connect this account, it is going to remain connected. Now, you can change the email and you can change the password, obviously, but if you have another account that you want to utilize, this will help to go through and adjust that instead to access that right away. All right, so instead of setting it up, you can just sign in. All right, now when it does that, it is going to take you over, as you can see, to foundation.lwolf.com. We'll talk about that in a second. But I'm just going to X out of this because I don't need that anymore. And this is going to change where it's going to say connected in 1 second. All right, or it's supposed to say this on here. If not, let me refresh this. Normally it'll refresh and then automatically connect. There we go. All right, it's just taking a little bit longer. All right, so now I can see Lone Wolf Transact streamlines real estate deals with client-driven workflows, e-signatures, everything on here. This was saying it before, but now it shows connected is my current status. So once again, how we got here for anyone that just jumped on, we started by going to command. We went to agent.kdb.com, clicked on our name at the top right, and then went to settings on here. And under settings, we clicked on the option to set up or connect our Lone Wolf Transact account. And of course, if you already have this connected, you are good to go. All right, and if you already have a Lone Wolf account that's been created, all right, if you've utilized this for Cloud CMA, for transaction desks, if you had a Lone Wolf account that was given to you from your board, you can try that login and password. I've not tried it over here, but that is an option to try. All right, and then this will allow us to connect this immediately. So as you can see, it's all connected. We are now good to go. All right, so now we can actually get into our class today. Now we have everything connected. Let's actually jump into this and start working through how we can access Lone Wolf Transact. What's the backend going to look like? How can we take advantage of everything? So the first thing we'll want to do when we're utilizing Lone Wolf Transact is we want to start the opportunity first. Now you can start this from Lone Wolf first, but the reason, or from Lone Wolf Transact, I should say, but the reason I would suggest starting it from the opportunity is by starting it from the opportunity, it'll create a transaction, which is the new terminology for a room or a loop. And then that way it'll sync with command directly. If you start it over inside Lone Wolf, much like starting a room over inside DocuSign or a loop inside .loop, it's not going to sync. All right. All right, and I see a lot of people in the chat are talking about errors on here. If you are running into errors trying to get this to pop up, please try refreshing the web browser again. I've run into that multiple times when teaching this class, and refreshing the web browser typically does that. You can try another incognito window if you want to see if that'll adjust it as well, but normally refreshing or pressing F5 and trying again will help on that tremendously. All right, but I'm going to click on the opportunities section over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to open this up and click on this. It'll make it a little bit easier to see what we're going into. All right. And what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to, and if y'all want to do this as well, you're definitely more than welcome to, but I'm going to start a test opportunity, basically, just one that I can play around in. And I may highly suggest you doing the exact same. So that way, if you haven't utilized Lone Wolf Transact quite yet, this would be a great place for you just to get some test in right away. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and say, let's create an opportunity on here. So I'm going to create one from the top right. And you can use whichever one you want to. I'm just going to do a listing on here for the time being. And once I click on listing, all right, now I'm going to go through and add inside my information. So in this case, I'm utilizing a test account on here, but I'm going to add inside my seller information. So I'm going to add in me again. All right, I've got the opportunity name on here, so I'll leave it a Scout Leroy listing, or of course, if you want to put anything else on there, feel free. And then I'm going to add inside some additional information on here. All right, so if you have a listing, I can add in the KWS listing. I'm just going to go ahead and add inside some fake information. 123 Main Street. I'll do Windermere, Florida. That's perfect. And maybe I want to add inside, it's a residential property. Classification is a resale. So just simple information to get this going. Estimated list price, 500,000. Commission rate is 3%. And the close date is going to be July 31st. All right, just filling in some stuff to see how this will look on it. All right, so I'm going to click this create button at the bottom right now just to create this opportunity. All right, and once we've created that, now we're going to be in the back end of our opportunity. So nothing is different so far from what we've done previously. This is all going to be the exact same. All right, so if you've ever created an opportunity previously to set something up for .loop or for DocuSign, this is going to be the exact same on here. Right, but when I click on the Documents tab up at the top up here, this is now going to allow me to sync with Transact. And if you still have DocuSign or .loop connected, it'll actually let you choose from a dropdown which one you want to utilize. All right, so that way you can choose. But before you do that, just make sure if you do have a checklist on here, as you can see, to start work with opportunity, please select the checklist type first. So I'll put in residential. All right, and now I can sync with Transact immediately. All right, now once again on here, all right, if you have other e-transaction platforms like DocuSign or .loop, all right, that is going to give you an option to choose between those three. But since I only have Lone Wolf Transact connected, that's why I only have this accessible. So if you currently have Lone Wolf Transact and DocuSign accessible, you're going to have both options on here. Right. Now, once DocuSign goes away on 7.14, it'll only have the option for sync with Transact. And just a reminder, all right, we did a class yesterday on DocuSign transition. After 7.14, you will not have access to the DocuSign rooms anymore. So I'm going to click on Sync with Transact now. And once I select that, this will take me over to my Transact backend. Now, if you noticed, it did open up a new tab on here. So if you do not have like maybe your pop-up blockers as on or anything of that sort, if it isn't taking you over, just make sure you're allowing for pop-ups on here just to be safe. All right. So now that I'm in the back end of my Lone Wolf Transact platform, first and foremost, there's a couple different ways that you can go through. All right. You can go directly through the opportunity section by clicking that Go to Transact button on here. All right. If you ever want to, you can also go to foundation.lwolf.com. I'll put that in the chat section real quick. Foundation.lwolf.com. All right. Or as you can see, you can also go to transact-workflow.lwolf.com. All right, so in this case, let's talk about what we're seeing on our transaction backend. So this is the transaction for Scott Leroy 123 Main Street. So with that being said on here, This is what we're going to see each time that we're inside the back end of whatever transaction it might be from our opportunity or any transaction that we create. So if you're used to using DocuSign, this is going to be the equivalent of the room. If you're used to using dot loop, this will be the equivalent of the loop. All right, but in Lone Wolf, they call it transactions. All right, so first thing first, on the left-hand side, we have all of our details around the particular transaction. So on here, if you want to add inside an image on it, if you're more of a visual person, you want to see that every time, please feel free. I can even go through and I can see it's currently preparing, but I can also go through and say, let's mark this as active on here. All right, so if I want to mark this as active, that'll immediately allow a couple things that are going to happen. We're going to talk about that in a second, specifically when we get to the to-do section. But this is just going to notate that this property or this transaction is now active. Now, if I click on this and I say it's now active, I don't want to do offer accepted quite yet. I can see that my details are saved. But if I did that on accident, at the top right, all right, there's 3 dots where I can click on undo status update to undo this immediately. Right? And that way I can undo this right away. All right, so if you were to select something on accident and you're not seeing a way to return it or anything of that sort, this will help out tremendously. All right, and then of course, if I need to go through and terminate it, I can do that as well. Now, under the details section on here, we're also going to have our parties. These are people that are going to be a party to the transaction. So right now, we're automatically going to have our, obviously in this example, the seller, we're going to have ourselves as the listing agent. And then in most cases, you'll also have your listing broker from the office. All right, so these are all going to be accessible on here where you can then go through and edit them or remove them. So I'm going to edit this because it keeps putting my middle name as this. All right, let's go through there. All right, so we can go through and edit or remove them if we want to, or we can add inside a party individually. So if I click on add party, I can now add inside another contact. So if I already have this contact connected into my Lone Wolf Transact account, I can add them in immediately. All right, these contacts will not sync, unfortunately, with command on here. All right, but in this case, I can also create a new one. All right, once we do that on there, then I can go through and say, if I'm adding in a party, all right, let's add inside whatever it might be. So it's alphabetically organized to the type or the role that I want to add in. Right, and I can add that information in along with all of their info on here, right, in order to access this right away. And if you see on this, enable client portal, so grants this individual access to the transaction based on the settings below. So I could go through and give them access on these items as well. So if you were working with another agent or if you're working with a transaction coordinator, this can help out tremendously. All right, but I'm going to go back real quick. All right, below parties, we also happen to have our property. All right, so under the property section, this is just going to show, once again, all the information that we put inside over in our opportunity. It's starting to pull this over for us. All right, or if you want to, you can also save time by importing property details. So if you are able to find this, from the MLS, if we have any MLS sources on here, then we can add that in right away. All right, that'll help to link everything immediately. All right, but once again, you can also add inside this information individually. This will be perfect to get this rocking and rolling right away. All right, and then finally on here, we have the offer section. All right, so if you want to add inside any offers on here, this will be similar to adding inside the offer, obviously over inside the opportunity section. This will allow you to put that in right away. All right, so a few items on here just to help out. All right, now outside of the details on the left-hand side, we also happen to have our paperwork. That's the first tab that we're seeing when we go over to our transaction. So the paperwork is going to automatically display what your office has set up as those specific checklist items of things that you need for whatever the, in this case, the residential listing needs to look like. Right. So this is going to be different for everyone. So unless you're with Office 447, yours is going to look a little bit different on here. All right. But on here, they've already got some items set up for listed under contract. It looks like they've done a lot on here to help out closed. So that's fantastic from this office. Now, once again, every office is going to be a little bit different. All right. So if you don't have any paperwork on here, it could just be that the office has not added them in quite yet. right? But you can always go through and add inside your own paperwork directly too. So you can either upload the paperwork by email. So if you're working with a client that wants to physically sign, a copy of the document, and then you want to scan it back in, well, instead of having them send it to you via email, you download it, then you log in, upload it. You can have this specific email address that'll be for each transaction, right? So for each transaction, remember, once again, transaction is the equivalent of the room or the loop. Right? This way you can email or forward that over with that particular PDF, document, whatever it might be, to add in here right away. Right? You can also add inside a new folder if you want to, so that way you can add specific items under that folder if you want to keep everything neat and organized. Or at the top right, we have the option to add paperwork. All right, so once I click on add paperwork at the top right, I can now go through and add inside my paperwork that I want to utilize. All right. Now, once again, everyone's libraries are going to look different, right? So if you're looking at my library on here, the chances that it's going to be the exact same are only correct if you're with Office 447. So yours is going to look a little bit different, right? But the functionality will still remain the same. All right. So under form libraries, I can see some forms that I can add inside. Or if I click the drop down on here, I can then go through and see, all right, well, here are some California Association of Realtor documents that I might want to utilize. Right? I can see, for this particular person, California Real Estate Commission. I can see the office forms that have been added inside. I can see any US federal forms, right? So all these items will be available. You can also upload your own forms as well too, right? So once again, if you have a PDF that you need to add inside, you can upload that directly. All right. Or at the very bottom down here, you can also go through and say, click here to link the NRDS ID, and maybe it's already linked, so otherwise it'll just say to refresh it. Or if you're in Canada, you can also link your CREA web forms. Right, so you can link the CREA web forms on here. Right, so if I click here to link NRDS ID, then I can put inside my last name, my 9-digit NERDS ID, the state that I'm part of, and I can link this up right away. And if you do not know that, you can also click here to help find your NRDS number. And then, of course, if you are in Canada, if I click on link CREA web forms, all right, normally this is supposed to come up on here, but it's already been synced. Normally a pop-up comes up where you can sign in on there. All right, you don't need to worry about buying form libraries. All right, but if you do want to add inside any forms on here, so if I go back and say, hey, let's add this one in, I want to add the, let's go for listing, residential listing agreement exclusive. All I have to do is click the add button on the right-hand side, and this is going to add these in immediately. All right. So I just click the add on the right-hand side of one as an example. And now if I come back here, it's going to say it's not filed right now. Right, so it's going to say it's not filed, but I can always go through and adjust this as well too. So I can move this around if I want to. You can see we got the little 6 dots over here. Is it 6? 8 dots on the left-hand side. So I can grab this and move this down into listed if I want to, and add this over right away. I see a lot of questions coming in. Thank you, Becky, for answering as many as possible. But I promise during the class today, a lot of these questions I've been seeing, some of them will get answered as well too. All right. Now, if you see your document on here on the right-hand side, you can also click those little 3 dots so you can download, print, or delete it. Or, of course, we're going to come back to this later on, but if you click the little checkbox on the left-hand side, your editing options will pop up down here as well. So we're going to come back to that, though, a little bit later on. All right, now next to the paperwork section, though, we also have our signings. Signings are where you can actually send out the documents in order for items to get signed. Right? So once again, if you were utilizing DocuSign before, signings are the equivalent of envelopes, right? Where you'd send out an envelope to someone where they would fill everything out and it would come back to you. That's going to be the exact same thing as signings. All right. Now you can create a signing by clicking the Create Signing button at the top right. And this will allow you to go through and link with Authentisign. But once again, we're going to come back to that as well too. So right when we get back into the paperwork section, that's going to connect with the signing. So I want to start with the paperwork and then go to signings before we do that. But you can always create a signing if you already know the paperwork is completed by doing this directly on here. All right. And you'll also have a to-do section. All right. So if you want to add inside specific items that you might need to do, all right, this is where you can access that right away. All right. So this is any checklist type item. And we're going to talk about this. And we're also going to talk about how you can auto-populate specific items on here right away every time. All right. I guess I shouldn't say auto-populate, but how you can quickly populate. Now, under to-do, you'll see on the right-hand side, there's an add list option. And if I click on add list, this is going to allow me to add inside anything I want to my to-do list. All right. So I'm going to name my list name on here. So I'm going to name this as listing to-dos. And I'll click create on here to create this right away. All right. And once we have that list name created, now we can start to add inside any to-dos we want to under that specific, to-do list. And of course, you can always click the three dots to rename or delete this as well. So if there's a spelling or if you need to rename it later on, you're definitely more than welcome to. All right, so I'm going to click on add a to-do. And once I do that, I can add inside whatever I want as my to-do on here. All right, so I'm going to say I want to host an open house. All right. Now, the good part about this is I can put inside host an open house. I can put inside notes on here. I can get reminders that'll come out. All right, little notifications on here. But I can also specify when this will be due. I can put that there's no due date, so I can do it whenever I want to. So if I don't have a specific time frame to host this open house, that's okay. I can say it needs to be on a specific date, so I can go in and put that specific date and then say what time it needs to be. Or I can even do this on here, all right, where I can do it relative to a transaction date. So on relative to transaction date, I can actually say on, before, or after. So maybe I want to say after, one day after the list date. So if I made this active and I said, hey, it's now active, it's been listed, well, then one day later, this should come up as my to-do. All right, so this will all be accessible on here. So maybe I want to say, hey, let's do this, 7 days after it's been listed. Give us a little bit of time on this. All right, and I'll say host my first open house for my new listing. And once again, you can add inside some reminders on here. We'll get notifications in this case. I believe the notifications are coming via email. I need to triple check on that. But this will give you notifications on here. And of course, if I just click save, I've now got my due on here, my host an open house to do item. I can come on here and I can edit it again. I can delete it. I can view this on the calendar, whatever it might be. So I can see, hey, this is where it's going to be 7 days after. So if I want to adjust it, I can. And once it's completed, I can check it off on here too. All right, so that's how simple it is to add inside an item on your to-do list and create a to-do list right away. Now, there is a section on here, all right, where we have timeline. This will actually show you all the different events you need to do. All right, so you could technically put some of these to-dos over inside the timeline as well. So if I want to, I could say, hey, I've got a to-do that I need to do 7 days after this. So maybe that open house is going to be a new event I want to add inside. So I can click on this add event option at the far right. And when I select add event, I can put, once again, host open house. I'll put host my first open house. And the date on here is going to be the 11th, this Saturday. All right, this is just going to be an example one on here. And once I click save, now it's going to have this on my timeline. And once again, outside of just seeing it in the standard list view, you can also view it in calendar forms. That way you can view everything that might be coming up you want to do, or any notes you want to jot down. Now, this is just going to be for you personally to take a look at on here. So if you are doing stuff for other people or anything like that, unless they have access to view this on here, this is really just going to be for you to view in the back end. keep yourself up to date on everything. All right, and then the final thing we have on here is the history section. This is going to show anything and everything that has been done and who was changed by at what time for this particular transaction. All right, so on here, this is where you're actually going to be able to go through and see what's been completed right away. All right, so I can see this is when the transaction was created at 2:16 Eastern Time. I shared the group at the same time. Property details were modified. A party was created, party created. Folders were created. Transaction status was updated. That's the one I changed to active. And then I moved it back. All right, I modified the party on here. So this is where you can actually see anything and everything that's been completed. And it'll actually show, if you click on it, what was done on here. So I can see the to-do created, host an open house, 7-day offset, due relative to transaction date. All right, or I can see on here, I changed the last name from Roy to Leroy, and I removed the Lee in the middle name. So this will actually show you what's been completed. All right. Now going back to our transactions on here, so I'm going to click back on this. This is going to show once again our transaction for this particular property. Right. And if you notice, this is going to look very similar to what you may have had over in Dotloop and over inside DocuSign, nothing too dramatic. And if we go back to the opportunities, you don't have to follow me back on here, but I just want to show you exact same layout. So we've got details on the left-hand side, and then we have all of our different tabs up here at the top. Same situation. Left-hand side has all the details, tabs at the top. All right, so now I'm going to click this transaction button up here at the top left to actually go back to our transaction homepage. All right, so this is the homepage for our Lone Wolf transactions under Lone Wolf Transact. Now, this is the equivalent of viewing all the loops or all the rooms, right? So before I click into this, this is where I can view any and all of those particular transactions I have. So since I currently just have one right now, that's all that's displaying. But if I start to add inside additional transactions, those will pop up on here as well. All right. Then, of course, as you can see, I'm viewing all transactions. You can go through and change what you want to view on here. You can add inside filters. Once again, there's always 3 dots. I can export the transaction list. I can add a new one, but once again, I would highly suggest adding this from the opportunity section instead. And then, of course, you can change from cards to table on here, depending on what you want to view. I'm a big card person. This is just more of a visually pleasing way of looking at it. But if you want to change it, you're more than welcome to. All right. So we're currently under transactions. If you want to view all the different signings on here, this is where you can actually view all signings across all transactions. So not just for that one that I had for Scott Leroy that was the listing, but if I have multiple transactions, this is where they'll all display. And I can also click that create signing on here as well too, and then select the transaction I want to utilize. All right, we are going to talk about that very soon. And then, of course, the last thing we have on here is our templates. I did see a question that came in here about how to add these in quickly. This is where I would highly suggest over the next week, while you're playing around with Lone Wolf or maybe getting the feel for it, start adding inside as many templates as possible, because this is going to make your life so much simpler. All right, when we click on the template section on here, this is where we can then go in and add inside whatever template we want to. And this will allow us to add inside parties, documents, and then also to-do items where we can automatically upload them every time. So instead of having to do it one by one, I can have a template prepped and ready and then say, let's upload that template and everything will automatically be added. All right. So if I click on add template on here, right, I can now go in and say, well, here's my new template. So let's add inside the name. So I'm going to say I'll use residential listing. That's fine. Listing, I'll put example, just so I know this is the example one. All right, ownership on here just says personal, so I'm going to select that, and then you can put inside whatever description you want to. All right, so I'm going to put this in as, I'm just going to put the same thing in. All right, and as you can see, you can add files, parties, and to-dos to your template after pressing create. So I'm going to create this real quick. right? And now I can go in and add inside whatever paperwork I want to. I can add whatever parties I want to. I can add whatever to-do items I want to. This will all be accessible to help out. So in this case, if you're looking at the paperwork that's on there and you're saying, well, hey, there's some paperwork that the office has given to us, but there's other paperwork that I specifically need to use every time on a residential listing, well, then maybe you want to add inside your own folder. So I'll click new folder on here, or you can always click add paperwork. But if I do new folder, then I can put inside Scott Leroy's residential listing paperwork. I can click that create button on here to create this right away. So I'm just creating a folder to keep everything organized. And if you click add paperwork, it's not going to put it inside here. So you can always click these little three dots to add paperwork from this as well. Once again, you can always click the add paperwork button. You'll just have to drag it to add it to whatever folder you want to on here. Completely up to you in this case. All right, but I'm going to click the three dots on here just so I can automatically add it in right away. And if I click on add paperwork, now I can go in and add whatever paperwork I want to. All right, so I'm just going to add in some as examples on here. So once again, I'll say let's add in that residential listing, business listing agreement, cancellation of listing, probate listing, MLS. I'm just adding in a couple on here just to have it. More likely, am I going to be utilizing all these? Probably not, but I'm just adding these in so you can see what it looks like in this case when it's completed. All right, and then once again, when we're adding that in, this will give the option down here where you can link your NRDS ID to sync over all the board forms. Or once again, if you're in Canada, you can add inside your CREA web forms. All right, but I've got everything added. So I'm going to X out of this, and I now have these 5 ready to go. All right. So that's how simple it is to add inside paperwork that you may want to be added every time to your different transactions. We're going to talk about that in a second. All right. Now, next to that, we also happen to have our parties on here. All right, so under parties, these are our transaction parties. So previously we saw in there that we had ourselves. In this example, we had the seller. We also had the broker for the office. But if you have other people that you need to add to the party on here every time, like a transaction coordinator, a mortgage provider, a lender, whoever it might be, all right? If you have specific people or vendors that you work with, you can add them in on here too. So I'm going to say add party. And once again, if you already have them in your contacts on Lone Wolf, not over inside Command, but on the Lone Wolf backend, you can search for them on here, or you can always click Create New to add this in right away. All right, and for my example, I'm going to go through, and although there's not a transaction coordinator on here that I've seen, although that would be a great one to have, maybe you could put it as general in this case. All right, or I guess admin's an option as well too. All right, but I'm going to go through and I'm going to say, hey, this is going to be for our mortgage appraiser. All right, so the mortgage appraiser on here is going to be mortgage appraiser. That's their name. They're born for this role. So there we go. I'm going to add this in as well. I'll put inside my email so we can just see what that'll look like. And then, of course, anything else that you want to add in, you're definitely more than welcome to. And if you click on this Save to Contacts, as you can see, selecting this will save a contact of this transaction party to your global contacts in Lone Wolf Transact. All right, so that's going to give you access to this right away. All right, now I'm going to click the Save option on the right-hand side so I can save this party real quick. And now we can see what this is going to look like. So once again, I named the title of this mortgage appraiser, even though that's what their role is. This would actually be their name. All right. And if we want to add more people in the party, you definitely can. And we're going to talk about what this will look like when we get to the transaction in a second. All right. And then, of course, on here for the to-do section, I can also go through and add inside a list if I want to. So I can say, this is my, I'm going to say Scott Leroy listing to-dos. Let's do it this way. I'll create this on here. And then much like we saw previously in the to-do section, I can add this in. So I can click on add a to-do, or once again, I can rename or delete this. But if I click on add a to-do over here on the left-hand side, All right, I'm going to put inside once again, just an example one. I would highly suggest going through and, over the next week or so and taking your time to create all these as well. Maybe I want to put, oh geez, let's see. We did host an open house. Maybe I want to do door knock the neighborhood, highlighting the new property for sale. Right, and once again, we have the due date on here of no due date on a specific date or relative to a transaction date. So maybe I want to say on when this has been listed. Maybe before in this case. Maybe I'm getting prepped for it. All right, now I can put in the reminders and notes, but I'm just going to leave this as is. All right, so now I've got 3 examples on here. I've got paperwork prepped. I've got a new party member. I have a new to-do item. So let's see what that looks like and how we can actually apply this. So if I click back on the template section at the top left up here, and then from there, go back to transactions. So once again, we've got transactions, signings, and templates at the top. So we were previously under templates. We're now under transactions. All right, well, now under here, I can go through and get back into my transaction that I have for this particular property. All right, so when I click on this directly, I'm back to where we were when we first went into Lone Wolf Transact. All right, this is back inside that particular transaction that was linked with the opportunity right away. All right, but if we notice, nothing has changed on here. We still only have 3 parties. If I go into my to-dos, I still only have 1 to-do item. I'm not seeing on here any of the other paperwork that I had. But if I click on the 3 dots at the top right, I can apply a template. Now, applying on a template is not going to change anything that's already on here. So it's not going to get rid of all these documents under listed. It's not going to get rid of these parties on here. It's not going to get rid of anything I have on the to-do side. It's just going to add inside that template in addition to what's already displaying. All right, so if I click apply template on here, I can choose the template I want to apply. So in this case, I'm going to use my residential listing example. All right, and then I can even go through and specify which ones do I want to add. Well, maybe I don't need the cancellation of listing because I'm just going in, I'm adding this right now. I don't even want to think about that. All right, but now I've got my party, I've got my to-dos, and when I click apply, all right, now we've got everything added. So if I look down here, I now have Scott Leroy's residential listing paperwork, and here are the 2 items that are on here that weren't already included. All right, so if you notice, some of the other items were already included, so it skipped those. If I look back up here on the left-hand side, I now have 4 people under our party, including the mortgage appraiser on here that I added in previously. And under our to-dos, I now have Scott Leroy's listings to-dos, and here's the door knock the neighborhood. There we go. So by adding these in, adding in these different templates, that's going to make your life so much easier when you get into your transaction and want to make sure that you have everything ready to go from the get-go. Right? Or if you have a TC that's going in and making all this, this will just help their lives as well to ensure that everything is set up properly. All right. All right, so let's get into actually what's going to happen when we have our paperwork. We want to send this off to sign. So this is why I suggested maybe utilizing yourself as an example on here, right? Because in this case, you can then send that paperwork to yourself if you want to try signing it and see what that'll look like. All right, so I'm just going to work with this residential listing agreement exclusive one on here that I have. And you can check off any of these that you want to, that you might want to go through and edit in this case. If you notice, the more that I check, the more it's going to show selected down here. All right, but I'm just going to use one today as an example so we can see what this will look like. All right, and when we select that over here on the left-hand side, we can then see we have the editor, we have the ability to send off a signing, we can email it, we can download it, we can print it, or we can delete it. All right, so in this case, I'm just going to worry about the editor right now because this is where we can go through and edit this document before we send it off for a signing. So once again, if the document is ready to go, you can send it off for a signing. I always prefer to go the editor route first. All right, so when you go through editor, sure, I love it, great. All right, so we go through the editor route on here. All right, this is going to take us over to our forms editor. All right, so if you notice on here, it's under formseditor.lwolf.com. And now we have our document in this case. So I can go through and see, hey, here's everything that if I need to go in, I can mark things off if I want to. So now it's all editable. On the right-hand side, I can see the parties on here. So I can see, hey, Scott Leroy is seller one. You got listing agent one, listing broker one, mortgage provider. I can see the listing information, and this will start to populate on here as well. All right, so I can see, hey, I need to go through and mark this off for seller in this case. All right, or I can add this in. I can even add inside offer information. I can add inside clauses on here too. All right, or I can even view my tools. If I want to add inside a text box, I want to highlight something, add inside confidential or draft for the watermarks. All right, that's all accessible to look at. But if I start to scroll down, I can then see anything and everything that's already been added in. All right, so that address already added in 123 Main Street, Windermere 34786. So there's certain things that I would need to go through and potentially update, but these are all editable now where we can go through and make those adjustments. So in this case on here, I'm going to leave this as is. We've got the seller's initials on here, so that's going to pop up in a second. All right. Yeah, it's a 23-page document. It's relatively lengthy. All right, but as you can see, I can go through and make some edits on here. I can add other ones from our transaction. I can add additional paperwork. I can print this off. I can download this. I can save it, or I can prepare signing. Now, once again, obviously, if I'm to actually send this off, there's a lot that I need to go in and fill out on here. So I have not filled anything out in this case. Maybe I want to say the data was prepared was today. I want to add in some other information, but I just want to show you how simple it is to go on here and see that it is editable for us to go in and change. All right, so that's all accessible on here to get this update. But if I do click the prepare signing button at the top right, let's say I went through and I added in all the information I needed to, and now all I need are the signatures. All right, well, if I click on prepare signing over in the top right, this is going to allow me, pull this up real quick, to send this off through Authentisign. So Authentisign is connected to Lone Wolf Transact. That's going to be the signing option that'll be accessible on here. All right, and I can see the signing name is the residential listing agreement exclusive. I can go through and change this if I want to. So maybe I want to change this to listing agreement dash Scott Leroy. And I can even specify a return folder. So when this is completed, where do I want this to come back when it's done? Do I want it to go back under contract? Do I want it to go under listed, closed, Scott Leroy's listing paperwork? So maybe under listed is where I want it to go. As you can see, a copy of the signed files will appear on the paperwork tab in the folder you indicate here once all parties have signed. So if I click that create button now, this is going to take me over Authentisign where I can view this particular document ready to go. So let's wait for this to pop up. Here we go. All right, and now if I come down here, I can start to see anything and everything. Now you will notice on here, it doesn't have the seller's initials or anything set up quite yet because we need to add participants. All right, so on the right-hand side, I can now go in and add participants, and I can either add myself, add a new person, add from the transaction, or from the contacts. So I'm going to add from the transaction on here. So that way I can actually say, hey, I want to add inside my seller. And that's why I need to sign on here. Maybe I don't need to sign this one. Maybe the mortgage appraiser doesn't need to sign this. But when I click select, this is now going to add inside this person and where they need to sign or where they need to initial. All right. And if you add inside multiple people, like maybe there's another seller on here I need to add in. If I add in a second seller, I can then even specify the signing order on here, where Scott's going first, and then maybe John Smith would go second if that's the other seller. All right. Now, when looking at this, I can also click this little box over here, little arrow to the right, and this will allow me to change information on here. So I can say, hey, do I need to change their signer type? Should they be a reviewer, a CC? Well, in this case, they're a remote signer. Do I need to give them a signing pen? Do I want to change their initials? So in this case, probably just want to have SL on there. And then I can even give them the option to go in and choose their signature font, draw the signature, upload signature image, a couple different things to help out. All right, and I can even remove them from the signing as well too, if I added them on accident. All right. Now, outside of the signers on here, we also have the documents section. So if I want to add inside more documents for this person to sign, I can do that as well. On the tools section, we have even more tools on here now. So I can see for Scott Leroy, the seller. So I'm currently under, or I can go under all sellers for myself. Not only can I add inside a sign here in an initial section, I've got text line, checkbox, but there's also initial pages, initial choice, radio choice, drop-down attachment. I can add inside signer fields on here, full name, email address, auto date, auto time. I can mark up certain things. All right, so that's all accessible to go in and make adjustments on here. All right. And of course, on the right-hand side, we also have our layout. All right, so if there are any layouts that I want to create on here, as you can see, use layouts to add pre-placed signing fields and markups to your documents. All right, I can go through and create these. This is going to be very similar to those templates we just talked about. So that way I can create a layout or I can apply one, manage one, whatever it might be on here. And then of course, we also have options on here as well too, just to take a look at. All right, but I did the bare minimum on here just because I want to show you all how it's going to come over on the signing side. I know we're getting close to that 1 hour mark, so I want to make sure we get through this. But once again, at the top right, we're going to have that print option. We have the download, we have the save button. I'm going to click next on here. It's now going to give me an expiration of reminders. Typically, it automatically shows up with 1 month is the expiration on here. You can change that though. And then you can even set reminders that'll come out with email reminders for them, maybe once every day at 9 a.m. if I want to. All right, so I'll give them reminders to take a look at this right away. Now, when I click that send button, this is now showing under our signings. The listing agreement was sent. No one signed it quite yet. We're waiting on Scott Leroy. This is the date it was modifying, the time. And when that comes through, we'll then be able to access that immediately to get this signed. All right, so it should be coming over on here. Did I put it under this email? Let me double check in this case. Did have some issues before for this coming through very quickly. So let's go back. Look at the parties on here. Yeah, put it under that one. Okay. So it should be coming through shortly. Let me check my spam. Nothing in there. All right, before it came through very quickly. Sometimes it'll take a little bit of time. All right, but once that comes through, then we'll be on the lookout for that email. Then we can sign that right away. All right. And whenever that is completed, then you'll receive an email as well, letting you know that this has been signed and done. All right, so while I'm waiting for that email to come through, unfortunately, it's not made it over here quite yet. Let me just triple check one more time. Did I spell my everything right? Okay. Whenever it doesn't come over right away, I always wonder if something's going on. All right, but while we're waiting for that to come through, one final thing that you can do inside Loan with Transact that I may highly suggest. All right, if we go back to our transactions at the top left. All right, so back to the transactions at the top left. Then at the top right, we have our initials on here, and this is where we can manage our accounts and our settings. All right, so you can also sign out from here as well. So if you want to go through and manage your account or edit your settings on here, you're more than welcome to. And if you click on manage account, it should send you a rate code more than likely. Yep, so it'll send you a code to access this. All right, and very similar to the codes we had before, it'll just have your one-time passcode on here. Just a reminder, what you're seeing on here is going to be different than what's going to be your code. This is my code specifically. All right, but once we do that on here, now we're able to go through and adjust anything we want to. All right, so if we need to adjust our time zones, like this person's in California, want to make sure that's Pacific on here, we can update this. But you can also update your security on here if you want to change your password or your account connections. So one thing I would highly suggest double checking is that you have your single sign-on connected on here. So as you can see, when switched on, you can access your personal products and services seamlessly without needing to enter your Lone Wolf account credentials. All right, so this is going to help out tremendously, especially for that opportunity side. And then if there are other products you want to connect through Lone Wolf, this is where you can come on here and connect those accounts right away if you are utilizing any of them. All right. So I'm still waiting for this to come back over, unfortunately, but let me try resending this one more time so I can show you what this is going to look like. Hasn't made it through quite yet. Let's see. Nope, I'm going to resend this one more time. So let's go back on here, go back to our Transact Command Edition. Going to hustle through this real quick because I know we're coming up on the class time. All right, but let's resend this. I'm going to resend this one more time. Signing was resent. Let's see if it'll come through. If not, there might just be a little bit of a delay going on right now. All right, but regardless, when this is sent off, this will allow for that particular person to sign it, and then this will then change from status of sent to signed on here, and you'll see that one of one have signed it. All right, and you're all good to go. All right, well, since I'm unfortunately having to wait for that to come through, the last thing that I did want to show y'all, and then I'm going to walk through everything we talked about one more time. The last thing I wanted to show y'all is on the opportunities section, because we started this opportunity and then linked it to Lone Wolf, we can now go through here. And as you can see, we're attaching files from Lone Wolf Transact. We're working with the folder of listed. I can then click this drop down and add inside any of those documents I want to. Now, if I'm not seeing documents, I can click the three dots on here and include the Transact forms to make sure those are popping up on here. So I always love to click the three dots just to make sure those Transact forms are included to be safe. All right, that'll help to get this going right away. And if I did happen to have one, like say, for instance, my MLS active sheet was this one, I can add that in immediately and that'll connect it. All right, so once again, that's going to be the exact same as what you were doing before on DocLoop or DocuSign. All right, but in this case, it's going to be all through Lone Wolf Transacts. All right, so let's do one quick run through of everything we talked about today. All right, so the first thing we talked about is we went to Command, and from there, we clicked on our name at the top right, went to Settings, and then made sure that we had our Lone Wolf Transact account connected. All right, so that's the first thing we did today is we connected this account. Once that account was connected, you can click on Go to Transact if you want to, or platform.lwolf.com if you notice down here at the bottom left. But instead, what we did is we started an opportunity. So under the opportunities section, we created a brand new opportunity as an example. All right, from here under the listing section, we started this up, created this as Scott Leroy listing. And then from here, we went into our documents and clicked on the sync to Transact option to sync this immediately. All right, now once we clicked on that, it took us over to our back end of our transaction. That's where we talked about the details on here. We talked about the paperwork and how to add them, whether it's uploading by email, adding a new folder, or adding in paperwork individually, whether it's uploading a PDF or adding inside other paperwork that's already accessible. This also talked about how to add inside your NRDS number or your CREA account login. All right, we talked a little bit about signings on here. We talked about the to-do section. We went through our timeline and our history. Along with going back to the transaction main page, we talked about the transaction homepage, all the signings on here. That's where you can see the signings across all transactions, and then how to create those templates we want to as well. When we went back inside our transaction, this is where we started adding inside our paperwork by clicking the checkbox, edited it, and then sent it off for signature. And when that was sent off for a signature, it just came through now. This is what it'll look like. So this is what that person will receive. It's going to say Authentisign, signing invitation. I changed it to listing agreement Scott Leroy. So this is saying this is sent on here. And if I click as the seller starts signing, this is what they're going to receive. All right, participant acknowledgement, I accept. And now I can go through and start signing right away. So all I have to do is click on the sign option. And since I've already signed this before, it's just going to ask me to initial. So I'm going to do this very quickly. Get this going on here for y'all. Awesome. Blindly signing. That's the last thing you should do. I'm doing this just for the time being, just to give you an example of what this looks like. And once that's done, it'll say complete signing. I'll click complete on here. And now it's going to tell me, congratulations, you're all done. I can download that document on here. I'm also going to receive a copy of that via email. And outside of that, myself as the agent will receive a copy of it too, saying, hello, an action has taken place on your signing. This document was accepted by the participant. All right, so that's all going to be accessible on here as well. right? And once again, for the person, in this case, the seller that signed it, now it's going to say, hey, here's your listing agreement. You can download a copy of the signed agreement. You can download the certificate. Or if you want to save or print, here you go. Right. So by doing that, acting as the seller and the listing agent, I'm able to see both sides. And now if I go back to the signing section, it currently says 0 of 1 signed, but if I refresh this, it should say that this has been signed and this is now complete, and I can view the final on here. And if something needs to be done on here, I can always delete this as well too, if I need to restart this right away. All right, but there you go. All right, so that is going to do it for our class today on Lone Wolf Transact. Once again, we are going to be doing this exact same class again in 2 days, and then we're doing it next Tuesday as well. So same time, same location on Thursday, and then same time, same location on Tuesday next week. But if you do want to come back and rewatch this class or rewatch our preparation class where we talk about DocuSign and how to secure everything, once you go to scottleroymarketing.com and sign in with your Market Center number, that's all going to be under the Agent Resources section. All right, so under Agent Resources, all of that will be accessible under our recorded training classes, and you'll see this under Lone Wolf Transact. So there you go. All right, so thank you so much for coming to the class today. Thank you, Becky, on here, who's been monitoring the chat all the time. You've been doing a fantastic job. I appreciate you trying to answer as many questions as possible on here. All right, this was just our 101 class. Once everything is launched, we will start to do a 201 class as well, too, to go even further into editing, other items you can do. All right, but I hope you all enjoyed this. I look forward to seeing you all in our next training class, and I hope you have a fantastic day today. All right, so see you very soon, and I'll hopefully see you on the next training class.